Well, hello everybody and welcome to the Irish Boxing Forum. We're on to episode 5 now and I'm Steve Wellings from irishboxingreview.com. I'm joined today by Niall Doran and Derek McKenna. Niall, how's it going?
All good, Steve. All good.
Excellent stuff. I believe you were speaking to none other than Mr. Evander Holyfield recently.
Oh yeah, a couple of weeks ago I had the honour of speaking to the great Evander Holyfield on the HuffPost live show. It's an online kind of sports show / kind of celebrity show that they have in America, and pretty much surreal experience really, to be honest with you. Pretty good.
I'm sure it was. Derek from irishboxing.com. Derek, how are you and what's going on over at irishboxing.com?
All good, Steve. A pleasure to be on as always. I haven't been keeping as esteemed company as Niall here, but things are getting busy again for boxing. Obviously, we have a show coming up and stuff like that, so we're buzzing as always on the website.
Excellent stuff. We certainly do have a show coming up this Saturday evening, the Mark Dunlop show, which we'll be speaking about a little bit later on. But starting off tonight, I think we'll just take a look at something that happened a couple of Saturdays ago. Patrick Hyland, actually, and Gary O'Sullivan, Spike O'Sullivan, both got wins over in America. A couple of good wins for the lads. Patrick beat Manuel de los Reyes Herrera in the 4 rounds in Madison Square Garden. And Spike got a win over the Colombian Milton Nunes, a 3rd round win, following up on his 2nd round knockout win of Larry Smith. So things are moving for the guys. Niall, Patrick Hyland, we thought he might be getting a sort of European title shot at one point. It looked like him and Eddie Hearn were sort of in together and he might get a shot at Josh Warrington, but it just hasn't materialised. Do you think that Stateside's maybe going to do for Patrick for the time being?
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe he'll stick with who's promoting Spike as well, with Dropkick Murphys. And I'd imagine if Spike stays over there in the summer, you'd probably see Patrick boxing on the same cards as him. And got a great record now, racked up over 30 victories. I think that was his 30th victory at the weekend, or 2 weeks back. So yeah, hopefully he keeps plugging away, and I'm sure he's not too far from a major fight this year, hopefully.
Derek, just as Niall was saying there, I think Patrick, we'd obviously like to see him boxing over in Ireland, but it's just not to be, despite the fact that he was due to be fighting John Simpson in Dublin on the big show last November, which would have been a fantastic fight. It didn't work out. It's a funny old game sometimes. Patrick, if he's going to get this world title shot, which he craves, he's going to have to go a pretty difficult route.
Yeah, kind of leading a nomadic life, as he was over in America, and then he was hoping to be back home and kind of based here, and he seems to be back over in America again, and it's disappointing that fight fell through last November, because potentially if he had got that fight against Simpson and beat him, the next kind of step then was a crack at Warrington, I think Eddie Hearn was lining up for. But it's a positive for him at the moment that he seems to be getting fights over in America, and as long as he's keeping busy. But as I've said it before, he's had a stop-start career, and I think he just needs a little bit of luck in getting the right fights, and I suppose all he can do to get that is to keep busy at the moment, and hopefully something will crop up for him winning this year. Like, something kind of has to happen for him. He can't keep on going waiting. It's been kind of a little bit disappointing the way, I'm sure for him, the way his career has panned out, that as I said, stop-start. So with a bit of luck, things will work out for him this year if he keeps busy over in America.
I'd definitely like to see Patrick keeping busy over as well, Derek. We'd like to see Spike keeping busy, perhaps even coming back over to Ireland or the UK and boxing someone like a Chris Eubank Jr. or John Ryder, or maybe even a Matthew Macklin, if the politics would permit. Would you like to see Spike coming back over and getting involved in those type of fights? So there'd be great box office, wouldn't there? You can imagine the press conferences before and after as well.
Yeah, well, there's big talk this week that, Spike's camper in talks with Eubank Jr. for a crack at the interim title. And you know how much I've ranted about how much I love that title in the past. I'm a big fan, especially when there's an Irish fighter fighting for it. No, but it's a great opportunity for Spike if he gets that fight. Whether, there was talk on Twitter today, even Spike was saying, we've given you the offer there, and if you don't sign it, it shows what a kind of a wimp you are. And there's been a bit of back and forth there. So apparently the discussions are at an advanced stage. From my understanding, there's talks there, even talks about rematch clauses, about a potential fight in Cork in the summertime and stuff like that. So that would be a huge opportunity for Spike, and like what a war that would be between Spike and Eubank Jr. They've been calling each other out for what seems like years now. Two big punchers. So we might have a big fight to look forward to sometime in the summertime if that one comes off. Hopefully we'll know in the next week or so.
Well, that would be great, Niall, especially never even mind about rematches. We'd love to see the fight, obviously, down in your sort of territory, down in Cork there. Obviously, at the moment, as far as we know, Spike's scheduled to fight the night before Andy Lee fights Peter Quillen. He's due out in Boston, as far as I know. We didn't know how realistic it was, really, about Spike fighting the likes of Lee. It seemed a bit far off, but if he was to fight Chris Eubank on Box Nation, that'd be a huge opportunity for him. He's been calling Eubank out, as Derek said, obviously, for a long time, and you throw his father into the mix, and it's a pretty chaotic setup. But I was reading in The Guardian, actually, I think an article that Paul Gibson did, and Spike's been very outspoken about Eubank Jr., and there's a bit of needle growing, so if they were to make the fight, it would be entertaining.
Oh, it'd be brilliant stylistically, I suppose, as Derek said, two massive punchers, two guys who like to come forward, two guys who can take a shot, two guys who've, given a lot of verbal jousting to each other as well. So yeah, it'd be unbelievable. I just from a stylistic point of view, can't really see how it could be boring, It'd be one of those that would surely live up to the hype, and yeah, it'd be beautiful if they could get something in Cork. It's been a long time since big time boxing's been in Cork, really, and yeah, either way, to be honest with you, it'd just be a massive opportunity for Spike, and without doubt, like if he beat him, I mean, he's really up there on the world ratings at that stage,
And obviously you have the added thing of, like, it's 20 years, I think it was last week, it was 20 years to the day from when Steve Collins Jr. beat Chris Sr. And you would obviously have that aspect to the fight that you could sell, that now obviously Spike is being trained by Steve's brother and obviously Chris Sr. type thing, like, so it had the potential to be a massive fight, and there's that kind of, the history element to it could make it into a huge type fight, and it would sell really well,
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you made that connection, Derek. I was thinking about saying it myself and then I forgot. So obviously, of course, it's the obvious one. Throw the father in. I mean, he's just a completely different character all in himself. You never really quite know what you're going to get with him. But I mean, I suppose talking about middleweights and on about Gary O'Sullivan there, it looks like there's going to be a big fight on the horizon for Eamonn O'Kane as well. Obviously, May the 2nd. We're all looking forward to the big one. It's going to be Pacquiao Mayweather, but out in the country, the deep dark country, it looks like Eamonn O'Kane's going to finally get his wish to fight in the sort of Derry area, Derek, and obviously I'd say we'll be chucking on down if we can to watch this one. They're talking about it maybe being an IBF title eliminator, but that might be a little bit optimistic given that we don't know who the opponent is yet, and I know that his trainer, Paddy Fitzpatrick, is looking to get like some English guys on the undercard, and the show has yet to sort of take shape. But the early signs are pretty promising about this big show for O'Kane.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I suppose the only downside that you alluded to is there's no opponent named yet, and I don't think it can be kind of billed as a world title eliminator, because if you don't know who the opponent is, how can it be an eliminator? So I hope they do get a high profile opponent. The venue, I think, is supposed to hold around about 2,000. It'll be a big night for boxing as well, because later on that evening, obviously, you're going to have the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight as well. But for Eamonn, it would be great if he could secure someone that's kind of higher than him in the rankings. I think I looked at the rankings. I haven't got them in front of me now. I try to get them up, but I think I went through them before, and it didn't look like anybody that's immediately in front of him in the rankings was a possible fight for that date. Now, obviously, they could pull something out of the bag there, and I could be surprised, but I'm not sure what your opinion is on it, Steve, but it would be great if they got someone above him in the rankings, but I couldn't see it when I looked at the rankings, anybody immediately above him being named to face him.
Yeah, I've got the rankings up now, actually. I'm wondering, out of the lot, whether they could... We mentioned Adam Etches, obviously, last time when we were talking. He's not above O'Kane, as you say. He's sort of in and around the 10 or 11 mark. I know Fight News rankings, these might be a little bit out of date. But I'm wondering, Derek, if maybe someone like a Sam Solomon, he looks like the most easiest to sort of be coaxed to come over for an opportunity, if you know what I mean.
Oh, well, yeah, actually, like that would be the most likeliest, because, as I said, and Dam is fighting for the title. Felix Sturm is moving up in weight. Billy Joe obviously is not going to take the fight. Lemieux is supposed to be fighting in them, although I haven't heard any more on that. I'm not sure whether you could update us on that, whether that fight is definitely happening. And then the next one is Solomon. But potentially, if the Lemieux fight doesn't happen, Solomon's next in line for that cracker to fight in them for the IBF title. So until we find out, and this may have been confirmed, but I'm not sure whether that Ndam Lemieux fight has been confirmed yet. I'm not sure if anybody else has heard about that, no?
Niall, I'm not sure if you've heard anything. Last I heard, David Lemieux was having some kind of promotional issues, I think with Yvonne Michel and the Canadian promoters over there. But I mean, it'd be a great job for Gary Hyde if he could get Ndam in with David Lemieux, and then we would maybe see the likes of O'Kane, maybe even boxing Sam Solomon or somebody like that, for the right to move up to the number 2 and number 1 spot. I'm not sure where Sergio Mora actually fits into that reckoning as well, but have you heard anything more maybe about Ndam or Lemieux fighting for that title?
I did read something about Lemieux the other day. I'm not sure did it pertain to Hassan and Dan, but no, I can't say that, to be honest. There's also, you've got Danny Jacobs in the mix as well, don't you? Or where would he fit into?
Well, I think Danny Jacobs doesn't he hold one of your favourite belts, Derek, the WBA interim title, so I think he's sort of locked up there.
He does, he holds the interim belt, yeah. Although, is that not the one that, I'm confused now, is that not the one that Eubank Jr. has at the moment, no?
Oh, he might have or maybe he's got a WBA, what's the other one? There's the interim. Flip me, we're getting caught in a black hole here, aren't we?
He holds conversation now, Stephen.
He holds some kind of belt. Anyway, I've got the rankings. You've got Golovkin obviously at the top. You've got Jacobs. Then you've got Eubank Jr. number 1. Unless Eubank Jr. took some kind of recess title, I'm not sure, but they have some kind of bauble between them. And Jacobs obviously beat Jared Fletcher, wasn't it, who seems to always find himself in and around these big shots. I don't know how, but I think Jacobs is actually going that sort of WBA route. I don't think he'll be there.
That international masters bronze.
Fair enough. Anyway, yeah, I think we're going down the rabbit hole.
Jacobs is actually boxing next month for the WBA World Middleweight title, like the regular version of the WBA belt.
The regular version. Sorry, that's it, Niall. That's exactly the word I was trying to think of. Yeah. So I assuming Golovkin's like been elevated to some kind of super champion status.
Must have been, yeah. How these titles go around, really. It's musical chair sometimes,
But yeah, not to worry. I believe Johnny Stapleton's with us. Johnny, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Definitely loud and clear.
Oh, unbelievable. After all that.
Good to have you. We're going to chuck you straight into the deep end here, Johnny. We're just actually, before we're moving on, a quick word about Eamonn O'Kane. Looks like he's fighting on May the 2nd. He's one of the most unlikeliest guys to fight for a world title, but he's getting closer with every step, no matter how much we write him off.
Yeah, and it's just a ranking thing, and he done well to win that. I'm not sure, was it the Intercontinental title?
I think so, yeah.
Why are we laughing?
We're going down a sort of belt black hole here, trying to fiddle out our interims with our regulars.
Well, it just gives you a ranking, and as we've said before, if the Ndam fight is a handy enough fight to make for him too.
Do you know if Ndam David Lemieux's going ahead?
I'm not too sure. The last time I was talking to Gary was at the Frampton weigh-in, and he was saying it wasn't confirmed then, and if one or two others pulled out, he'd be O'Kane next up. But I presume with this fight on May the 2nd, O'Kane will probably be the first voluntary defence.
Well, we're hoping so. So we'll climb out of the bowl of alphabet soup, I think there. Derek, World Series of Boxing, just a very quick update. With good wins for Paddy Barnes and Michael Conlan. Seems to be ticking on nicely over there.
Yeah, the two lads had great wins. I think it was a week ago or so. Michael Conlan beat the number 1 ranked boxer at his weight, an American guy, I think, who had won his 5 previous fights, and Michael looked superb in beating him. Just his ability to create angles in the ring and land punches and without getting hit was really a masterclass. And then Paddy Barnes as well was superb. His opponent, I believe he got stopped in the 4th. I watched that fight, but I can't remember whether it was the 4th or the 5th. His opponent's manager stopped the fight, his opponent still looked like he was well able to continue, but he was taking a beating, but still fighting back. And but they threw in the towel, and I think even Paddy said to the manager, "Oh, I think he was fine to continue." But a great performance from Paddy. I didn't get to watch the fights at the weekend, just past, because they were on at some ungodly hour. I believe, I'd say Jonny would be probably the man to ask on that. Jonny, did Adam Nolan got a win? And
Adam Nolan and Donnelly won, but Breakfast Roll didn't get the win on his debut.
I didn't get to see it myself. As I said, I think it was on at 3 or 4 in the morning.
I didn't see any myself. Boy, there's stuck doing football all weekend.
Not to worry, good wins for the lads anyway there. And sticking on the Conlan theme, actually, Jonny, seeing as you're on, the news has broke since we last spoke about Jamie Conlan. He's sort of up sticks and gone over to this MGM Grand gym, Matthew Macklin, Seamus Macklin's gym over in Spain, to hook up with Danny Vaughan. It looks like he's not with Cyclone Promotions anymore, but John Breen seems to think on Facebook that he's still his manager. There's obviously a few things need to be ironed out, but do you think that it'll be a good change of scenery for Jamie Conlan? He might finally get a big title shot now?
It's a strange one for Jamie, because he was so close to John, and I know when he signed the Cyclone contract, he was as happy for John as he was for himself, saying it's great to get, John some big fights, or keep John ticking over because John deserves it. And he was really close to John there. By all accounts, Jamie was saying there wasn't a falling out. He just needed a change of scenery. He wanted to get out of Belfast to train. And the Cyclone thing is strange too, because he seemed to have big fights lined up, and he was going on the right track there. But obviously they've sold him the idea of big fights down the line. And is it Vaughan that's coaching him now?
Danny Vaughan,
Vaughan, yeah. He was saying maybe a world title shot within a year or 18 months, but I think he was on that path anyway. So it is a strange one, and it's a shame for Cyclone to lose Jamie, because he's always a good addition to the show, and one we got excited about watching on Frampton undercards.
Well, I mean, I suppose he's ranked quite highly with the WBO, Niall. He's about number 3 or number 4 in the rankings. We can maybe see him getting a shot at that. We were speaking actually last week about the possibility of the Jamie Conlan-Paul Butler fight, which has been brewing, and we obviously know that Paul Butler stepped up to world class against the South African Tete there recently. And I mean, in fact, I like Paul Butler. He's a nice guy, but he really was sort of taken to school, and with the greatest of respect by Tete, and maybe showed that there's a bit more learning to be done, and the gap maybe isn't that high between him and Conlan. It's definitely still something we could be interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. Perhaps, I suppose, Butler coming off that defeat now, maybe it'll make sense for Conlan's people to maybe try and get the fight with him now, in terms of it being an ideal time to get at Butler. I guess with the MGM thing, will it be Eddie Hearn who will be promoting him, or is it clear yet who will be promoting Jamie?
I'm not sure that he has any kind of promotional ties. I think that Danny Vaughan seems to think that he's going to be handling like the managerial side of things, and they'll maybe steer him in the route of whoever sort of offers him the best deal. I don't know if the other lads could add anything to that, but that's my understanding.
Yeah, that's the way I picked it up too, is that it's just they believe they, especially at that weight, like they can get him big fights, and they can get him, I presume the Butler fight was probably in everyone's mind, because that's a fight that people want to see, and it's a fight that probably fairly handy to make, especially now. Butler probably looking to go another route to a different world title shot, and he's highly ranked in the WBO, and there was talk of them fighting an eliminator at the tail end of last year, that the WBO had ordered an eliminator, so I presume that's the route they'll go, so he'd probably be on Warren cards.
I could see him ending up on Box Nation, definitely. Regarding that WBO eliminator, actually, Derek, when I was talking to Butler, he was over for the last James Tennyson fight in the Devonish. He was alluding to the WBO ordering the eliminator, and he said whenever they ordered it, we accepted the offer, but Conlan's people didn't. which I was a bit surprised to hear about. I mean, assuming Jamie obviously saw another route, Barry at the time wanted to take him a different route, but I was surprised to hear that as being the reason as why the fight didn't go ahead.
Yeah, well, we don't. I know that's obviously what Paul Butler said, but we don't know that that's 100% the truth either. Like, you know, so. Mm-hmm. But like, I'm just looking at the rankings there now, and as I said, we don't know whether they're totally updated. But Butler's 14 in WBO, and Jamie is number 4. So, like Jonny was saying there, if Butler was looking back for a different route back to a world title, an eliminator with Jamie, if it could be remandated, I don't know whether that's totally off the table now, because it wasn't accepted in the first place. But if it could be done, it would be an attractive route for Butler to get back up there, of course. And again, that has the potential to be a huge domestic fight. I don't know whether it would be a build topper or not, but on the undercard to another kind of fairly big fight. And Jamie's a good ticket seller as well, and brings a big crowd with him. Like, so, if it could happen in Belfast, I don't know what your opinion would be, Steve. Whether it would top the bill in the likes of the Waterfront or something like that, or maybe it would need to go on the undercard. What do you think?
I'm not sure they'd be in a hurry to go back to the Waterfront too quickly, but I mean, possibly something in the King's Hall, maybe with the right promotion. You'd like to see the faces sort of around Belfast beforehand, so you'd like to see them jump on it as sooner rather than later, so that people don't forget about Jamie, so to speak. I know obviously he's still going to sell a lot of tickets and that, but you do need that sort of little bit of hype and that little bit of momentum rolling behind these things to try and sell these arenas out. I'd say possibly if Frank Warren had anything to do with it, he might put it on in Liverpool, because we know that Butler is from Chester and he seems to bring a lot of people across, and Butler is obviously predominantly Frank's fighter. Jonny, I think you'd agree.
Yeah, there's no way that fight
he'd put it on in Liverpool.
Yeah, there's no
he?
way that fight wouldn't be in Liverpool. If Frank Warren is involved, he's not coming over for that fight, definitely. And I think with Butler saying that, I think they wanted to go the IBF route because it was a straight up world title shot. They didn't have to have an eliminator and then another one, and they wanted to make this history of someone going down from bantamweight to superfly to win a world title. So I wouldn't believe that straight off the bat either, because I presume they just went for this. They got offered the IBF title shot, and by all accounts, I'm not sure if it was Jamie who was saying that they seen the WBO as a backup in case that fight didn't come off, the eliminator. So I wouldn't believe that Jamie turned that down, because for years he's been looking for it. Now I don't know, maybe something behind the scenes, or it wasn't the right offer, or etc. etc. But I would assume Jamie would have snapped that fight up, and it just made sense for Butler to go straight for the IBF title than rather fight an eliminator first.
Mm-hmm. Well, Butler's dropped quite considerably down the WBO rankings now, and with the best will in the world for Jamie as number 4 in the ratings. I've seen a few YouTube clips, and I would say, lads, if you haven't seen anything of this WBO champion, this Naoya Inoue, the Japanese guy, I would not be in a hurry to be jumping in with him. He's had about 7 fights, and he's got the world title already, and he looks like a bit of a monster by all accounts. So, I wouldn't be too quick to jump in with that guy. And I suppose the same happened for Butler, didn't it, with the IBF title? He stepped into true world class. We were saying this last week. He'd fought Stewie Hall for the IBF title, which was effectively a domestic rival. And then when he stepped in against the South African, he got a taste of what true world class was. And sometimes, you find out in that deep end that it's sink or swim, and it wasn't to be for Butler at the end. So we'd love to see that. We'd love to see that one. So I suppose before we jump in with a bit of Carl Frampton, Scott Quigg chat, I'll just mention Ryan Burnett actually. In the meantime, since we were last on air, he got a second round knockout win over Isaac Owusu, and he's fighting again in London on March the 27th. Just very briefly, Jonny, just touching on Burnett, Adam Booth's getting him a fair few fights over in England, which is obviously a good thing.
Yeah, I was talking to Adam Burnett in Limerick recently, or Ryan Burnett, Adam Booth in Limerick recently, and he was talking big things. He was saying 1 or 2 things to learn, but when this fella has maybe 3 or 4 more fights, he says it's time to watch out for him. And the last couple of times we've seen him, he's looked a class above. Really, I know he's only fighting journeymen, but he's doing the journeymen. He's getting them out there quick, and you can see his talent and his decent knockout power too. And after a couple of hard years he had, it's great to see him get a run of fights. And I think he's fighting in America on the Lee undercard as well, on the undercard of Lee Quillen. I think he has a fight date there too.
There was talk of that, yeah.
So that's another positive for him, and I'm delighted to see him get a run of fights, and he is a real talent. And when he does come even over to Belfast and he's on them small hall shows, you notice there's a bit more buzz about the place as well. You know, people know of him, and people are excited by him. And then he comes out and he fights like that. He has an exciting style to watch too. So definitely one to watch for the future, and it's great to see him get a bit of a run of fights.
It's one of those ones where I'm a little bit surprised actually, Derek, that none of the big time promoters have sort of taken a look at Burnett. I know he's with Ricky Hatton and he had a few problems here and there. Adam Booth, I know he has a few detractors, but I do rate him as a trainer and he seems to be getting the best out of Ryan at the moment. I'd like to see him step up in class soon if he could, with a bit of help. I mean, it's unlikely maybe he's going to sort of reach the sort of Carl Frampton levels at the moment, but he's definitely a talent. You could see him packing out a few small hall arenas in the near future.
Yeah, I think undoubtedly, like if he gets the right opportunity, he's still very early in his career. I think was he 7 fights in, or
he's 7 or 8.
Yeah, so like he's still quite early. But it is, I suppose, a little bit surprising that nobody's picked up on him when you consider. I think Frank Warren has signed up Kieran McFarnick and that type of thing, and he's only quite young in his career as well, whereas Burnett potentially has a lot more talent there. I don't know, like, you know, he's a lot more of an amateur pedigree and that type of thing. It would be a great thing if he was on that PBC undercard and it was televised. I don't know whether if it would be televised, but I think it's only a matter of time with Ryan Burnett. Like Jonny was saying as well, he's very, very highly rated by Adam Booth, and I think the only way is up for him, you know, and he's looked hugely impressive any time I've seen him. Like as well, they have been journeymen, but it's just a manner in which he's getting rid of them early and he's, you know, knocking guys out. So yeah, I think I wouldn't be too surprised if you seen a promoter sign him up within the next year, within this year, like, you know.
Yeah, the natural talent and the fan base definitely seems to be there, and I expected when he turned pro off the back of that gold medal that he would be the natural successor to Carl Frampton. Obviously Carl's moved on to another level now, Niall, and we know that according to boxrec.com, I don't think he's on there now, I think it's Golovkin, but Carl was on the front page of boxrec.com with the t-shirt on saying I'm boxrec number 1, proudly displaying the t-shirt. Now I know Gary Hyde and Rigondo and their team would have something to say about that, but we're hoping that Carl will obviously fight the WBA interim super bantamweight champion Scott Quigg. I hope
he's regular now, Steve.
Is he regular? Is he? Right. I'm not getting any of these things right tonight. I'm over these titles. I'm gonna have to brush up on these. Niall, I'll have to ring up Gilberto Mendoza of the WBA and see if he can keep me right on these things. But we were saying earlier, if Joe Gallagher's put some kind of 2-week time limit for the fight with Quigg and Frampton to be signed, or that they're going to be moving on and looking up other things. I mean, the cynic in me says what they're going to move on to. I mean, dragging up some more guys from bantamweight, that's maybe a little bit harsh, but it has to happen, doesn't it, this Frampton-Quigg fight? I mean, is there any movement on it?
Yeah, if it doesn't happen, it'll be hugely disappointing for like all fight fans involved and the people involved. Like, I mean, they're both world champion. It just seems like the perfect time to make it now, and I tend to agree with what Eddie Hearn said in an interview last week. He said that, you know, it's a short window of opportunity being a professional boxer, and like people talk about, oh well, if it happens down the line it'll be even bigger, but it mightn't happen down the line, and that'll mean that the guys will forgo a massive payday, which, you know, it's going to be life-changing money for them and their families. So yeah, hopefully it happens. I think Joe Gallagher said they've 2 weeks to come to an agreement, but I'd imagine from what I heard, the Sky offer has been put in. Don't know what it is, but I'd imagine they're waiting on what ITV would possibly be putting up for the fight. And yeah, you'd have to think they'd go for where the most money is. But yeah, then again, you may be thinking to yourself that McGuigan, he doesn't want to jeopardise that ITV relationship so early into it as well. So maybe they're trying to reach a compromise. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to beat that Sky box office money. It's such a machine. It's such a promotional heavyweight. Like, I can't see how ITV will match it. Like, but yeah, I mean, if they can, it'll be unbelievable, because you'd have to think that 4 or 5 million plus people would tune in to watch that on ITV at least.
I think that would be brilliant, Derek, but I really can't see it going anywhere else than Sky. More than likely Sky pay-per-view. I think that's where the money is, and even though I do have sympathy for this argument about let it ferment, let it grow, how many big fights or even lesser fights have we seen fall by the wayside because they've let it ferment for too long? Someone's got knocked off, beaten, injured, the fight's never happened, they've moved weights. We need to just get it on now, don't we? Never mind any more fermenting.
Yeah, like I think the best thing I seen on Twitter during the week was Carl's tweet to Joe Gallagher and asking him, will Jim White be making an appearance on deadline day 2 weeks' time? That was really good from Carl. I think there's not much hope. Well, in my personal view, I don't think the fight's going to happen on ITV. I think at the end of the day, money's going to talk, and it is a pay-per-view fight. Bellew cleverly wasn't a pay-per-view fight. Frampton Quigg is. People will pay for it. It is kind of one of those, big fights that can be hyped up to such an extent that can be pay-per-view, which will make both lads a huge, massive amount of money. And if that can't be put up by UTV, it just seems logical. If you're, I'm only picking figures out of my head here, but if, for example, say each fighter was being offered $1 million each to fight on ITV, but they were being offered $5 million each to fight on Sky pay-per-view, it's logical that they're going to take the $5 million each, and I think both camps would be very silly not to accept that. If it's coming down to something that it's not a greater deal more to fight on Sky than it is on ITV, then fair enough, go on ITV, because they'll both raise their profiles to a huge extent, and they'll both be superstars. But I believe that it's going to come down to money at the end of the day, and the possibility of pay-per-view just gives them that extra scope to pay both fighters big amounts of money.
Mm-hmm. Excellent point, Derek. Gary Hyde's written an open letter to the WBA. Jonny, it's not the first open letter he's written to somebody, it'll not be the last probably. He's looking to force the hand, isn't he, of Scott Quigg to try and get this Rigondeaux fight together. It's been in the works for over a year, it hasn't happened. So he's petitioning the Gilberto Mendoza and the organisation to try and force this Rigondeaux-Quigg fight. I mean, if Frampton Quigg doesn't happen now, realistically, where do you see Frampton going? What sort of avenue would you steer him in, and where does Rigondeaux fit into this whole mess?
Well, look, he sends an open letter to the WBA, and I feel sorry for Gary and Rigondeaux, being such a talent and you can't get the fights. But basically, Quigg will vacate because the money's on the line for Frampton. It doesn't need Quigg's title. Frampton has the proper world title there. So if Quigg just vacates and takes the Frampton fight, and I think the Joe Gallagher 2-week deadline is probably a bit of waffle too, because basically what does Quigg do? Go and fight, as you said, another bantamweight, or even, I think they were even looking at TJ Doheny in Australia at one stage, the Irish fella who holds an amateur win over Frampton.
Yeah, right,
so
okay.
Where does he go? And he's won, not even, every time he fights it's a risk that he's going to lose, or it's a bad performance of detracting from that Frampton fight. So I think maybe Quigg and Eddie Hearn need it more than Frampton do, because it looks like a cash-out fight. And no disrespect to Scott, because he seems like a decent bloke, but it looks like a cash-out fight for them, to make the money while they can, because he's won every time an opponent is announced, he's getting stick. So he's won bad performance against one of these guys, he's getting stick for, away from completely losing that fight. So I think they'd wait 2 months, 3 months, and just hold on and hope for that fight regardless. And with Rita TV, I think the sort of point Barry was making is, I don't know if I have this right, but he was saying, raise their profile and increase the brand if you're on ITV. So, does that mean, you can go on Big Brother Celebrity Get Me Out of Here or whatever them things down the line, and you can become a household name. But I presume Carl would prefer the money up front. And would Eddie be able to? I don't know what the story is with Eddie. Is he not solely tied to Sky? Would he be able to go to ITV? I know he's talking about if ITV paid the money, but is he able to do that? And if he did, would he sour his relationship with Sky? Because there's one of their big pay-per-view fights they've been hoping for years gone.
Yeah, that's an interesting question actually, because we know he let John Ryder go over to Box Nation to fight Billy Joe Saunders that time, but I think it was a case of maybe Frank Warren had actually won the purse bids, and Eddie was originally supposed to promote that one, and it was maybe a case of Ryder wasn't the biggest fighter in the stable, so he's happy enough for that to happen. I think it'd be a whole different proposition if he was to let someone of a fight of the Scott Quigg, Carl Frampton magnitude go over to ITV so handily. you know, I'm still yet to be convinced whether ITV is really going to dip their toe into the water. I know they showed the Avalos one, but I'm just not sure at all. You'd be hard pressed seeing Eddie sort of conceding any ground, like you say, Johnny.
Yeah, but they probably need the Frampton fight more than Frampton, to be honest, because Frampton has other options, and he looks like he's going to the top, and you definitely could crack America over the next 18 months, 12 months. I don't know if you can say the same about Quigg. I'm probably being a bit harsh, but it looks like they're cashing out. So Cyclone probably hold the cards in the negotiations in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, there's offers, counter offers, Niall. There's things going in and out of the media. Joe Gallagher gets much derided. We hear that he takes a lot to do with his fighter's career. We know that he's training Quigg. I think he might have some kind of managerial ties. I'm not sure if he does or not, but he's quite outspoken about protecting his fighters. We've got Eddie Hearn as well in one camp. We've got the two fighters themselves who seem to be the only two people who want to make the fight. Then we've got sort of Barry and his sons over in the other end. They're all accusing each other of having massive egos. I mean, is it just a case of the typical pre-fight negotiations and we just need to put all the puzzle pieces in together, or do you think there's anyone in particular who's blocking the fight?
No, I wouldn't say there's anyone backing it. It seems kind of apparent that the way they work together is through Barry's son Blaine, I think, speaks directly to Matchroom. Eddie Hearn was saying in one of those IFL TV interviews. But I found it interesting the other day as well. There was an interview with Barry Hearn, just a general interview. It didn't really go mainstream, but he actually alluded to the fact that he was kind of speaking about how Barry shouldn't really be worried about souring any potential relationship with ITV if the fight happened on Sky, because he actually mentioned that Barry mentioned he works quite closely with that guy Niall, who's the head of ITV Sport for the darts and the snooker anyway, and they all seem to be kind of mutually working together, and one would think it's just kind of a matter of time, just crossing the I's and dotting the T's, and hopefully within the next 2 weeks they'll have announced it,
Mm-hmm. So, Derek, I suppose before we cut off the old Frampton conversation, where do we see Rigondeaux fitting into this whole mix? This week, apparently, Vasil Lomachenko said that he wasn't looking to move down, which effectively quashed a fight with Rigondeaux. Rigondeaux has said that he would move up. I think he's too small to be moving up, to be honest. I mean, if he was going to move anywhere, it maybe be to bantamweight. Mm-hmm. But then, who is the down at bantamweight to fight? I mean, Rigondeaux's just sort of been left out in the cold, isn't he? We're constantly hearing that, from more and more angles now, that sort of Frampton's number one at 122. I've been quite outspoken myself. I still think it's Rigondeaux. You have to beat the man in this case to become the man. Nobody's beaten him. You can't just ignore him. I mean, what on earth is he going to do?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there, Steve, and I think Carl would agree with that as well. He said it himself.
Yeah.
To be the best, you've got to beat the best. And like I always kind of go back to it where he said at the start of the year, his perfect year would be to fight Quigg in the summer and then go on and fight Rigondeaux towards the end of the year. So, but then if you're in Rigondeaux's situation and obviously they can't force the Quigg fight, does he just kind of hang around for the rest of the year, hoping that once Carl dispatches of Quigg that he'll kind of agree to fight Rigondeaux? And what happens if that doesn't come off then for Rigondeaux? He's kind of just wasted another year. So you've got to feel sorry for him, like undoubtedly one of the most talented boxers around at the moment, could be, in different circumstances, could be regarded as the best boxer, and that's lived to a certain degree. If he had the right promotional backing, like he's blighted by bad luck, really. That nobody will fight him, and it's a bit of a strange thing in other weight divisions. I know there are avoided fighters out there, and you kind of get that in certain quarters, but he seems to be the most avoided fighter in the world at the moment, as far as I can see, because nobody in his weight division really wants to get in with him, and it's sad for him because he's such a talented guy.
Yep, it is quite remarkable, but hopefully Rigondeaux will get his shot soon and we can sort of work this whole mess out.
I wonder, could he tempt Kiko into the ring? I know Kiko's supposed to have gone down to bantamweight, but
he signed with Al Heyman, hasn't he, Kiko? I mean, would that affect anything?
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
I think so. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm throwing that out completely
And
erroneously.
is he at bantamweight or super bantamweight, Steve?
He's going down to bantamweight. I definitely heard that. And last I heard, he was going to sign an agreement with Al Heyman because they were thinking that he might be put in with Santa Cruz or Abner Mares. I think Heyman holds both of their contracts.
Yeah, well, that's good news for Kiko. And probably good news for Carl if Kiko was to do well against either or. It makes Carl look a better fighter again.
It does. It'd be frustrating to see Kiko fighting Santa Cruz, though, ahead of Frampton, but that's just the way this sport works, isn't it?
Well, I don't think Santa Cruz is going to fight Frampton, so I actually think it'd be nice to see Kiko fight him.
Kiko against Scott Quigg. Anybody fancy that one? I think that'd be a good test for Quigg.
That'd be a cracking fight. I think Kiko stops him.
Think so?
Yeah, I think so. Well, maybe... Yeah, but Quigg is a lot bigger than the guys.
Big guy, isn't he, Quigg?
Yeah, he is a lot bigger, yeah, so maybe, but I don't know. Kiko earned a lot of respect from me when against Frampton too. I suppose we've seen him demolish Dunn as well, so he always knew what he was about when he's on his game.
Definitely. Lads, we'll move on then, and before we move on to the world scene and look at the latest developments with Mayweather Pacquiao and have a discussion, I suppose, closing out about the TV situation, we'll briefly have a look at Mark Dunlop's show coming up this weekend on March the 28th. Derek, last time we spoke, I wasn't sure if it was you or Jonny who was going to be coming up for this one at the Andersonstown Leisure Centre.
Yeah, unfortunately I'm not going to be able to make it up, Steve, prior engagements, but so Johnny's going to be taking over the mantle there, but yeah, I'm actually
probably fortunate for Mark Dunlop and the fighters, though.
Thanks for that, Johnny. Yeah, much appreciated.
Sorry about that, Derek. Go ahead.
Put me face, Steve. I know that now.
Yeah, so I've got the card up in front of me. Actually, it's taking shape. Last I heard, Joe Hillaby was fighting Moses Matova at cruiserweight, but according to BoxRec now, Dee Taggart's jumped in there. Seems to be fighting Joe Hillaby. The only guy who hasn't got an opponent yet is Daniel McShane. He's in against the much-travelled TBA. We've got Tyrone McKenna against Istvan Kiss. I know I told this story on the last pod that didn't record, unfortunately, but Istvan Kiss was the guy in Castle Bar that time who was sick over the side of the ropes halfway through a fight. Were you at that one, Jonny?
I don't recall that one.
It was one of the Henry Coyle shows back in
Is
about
he
2012.
the guy that's been a couple of times disqualified for low blows and that, or am I mixing him up with another fella?
I think you might be thinking of... Are you thinking of Oscar Fico, the guy who fought McShane and fought Patrick Hyland?
Sorry.
That's Fico.
Is he making an appearance now?
No, I don't think he is. I don't think he's actually allowed to fight under British Boxing Board control areas now, apparently, because he got disqualified in London recently for headbutting the referee, somebody told me. so I think he's in the bad books.
How he was in the good books ever for them, like some of his fights, I don't know.
Well, Mel let him fight down in November, didn't he, against Hyland? So he's not so fussed. But no Oscar Fico, but we've got his fan kiss anyway, so hopefully he hasn't had his dinner before he fights against Tyrone that night. We should be safe enough. Good local domestic scrap between James Fryers and Mark Morris. Really looking forward to that one. Puncher against boxer. Two guys very much in the sort of embryonic stages of their career. Dee Walsh is in against Peter Orlick. I don't expect Orlick to be causing Dee too many problems. He actually lost to Joseph Khomeini, who Dee Walsh knocked out in a round, so that doesn't really bode too well for him. And then we've got Paul Hyland in against Imre Nagy. He's got a reasonable record, but I expect Paul Hyland to win that one. His original opponent... It is Paul Hyland's fighting Imre Nagy. He was originally supposed to be fighting the Olympian, who's now pulled out.
Oh, okay, yeah, but is it for a title? Did I read somewhere? It's for...
Oh, sorry, no, I don't. Not that I'm aware of. I could be wrong, but I don't think. I think it's a 6 or an 8.
It's an 8 round.
Is it for the international bronze, silver?
I don't know. They're supposed to be doing away with them, unless he's still going to be defending it.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I have to look into that one, Derek. I'm not sure.
I think we probably see the best of Paul Hyland, because he's got a half-decent opponent this time around. He's kind of been unlucky with the guys. He's got real awkward fellas. I think this is going to be the time we're going to see what he really is capable of against a non-kickboxer, basically.
That should be good. Anything that sticks out for you, Derek? Obviously, the main event, James Tennyson against Chris Hughes as well, should be a cracker.
Yeah, that should be a cracker, but, you know, I love the domestic kind of, the local bouts and Friars, and Morris should be a good one. Someone's always got to go, isn't it? Like, so, you know, I always love those type of scraps. But the main event is a really good one as well. And like going down through it, every one of them is talented boxers. I like watching every one of them, and I'm kind of a little bit gutted that I'm missing it. Actually, I've come to enjoy going up to Belfast every month or two for Mark's shows. So it's a bit of a sickener to be missing this one.
Have you talked to Morris, Steve, at all yourself? It seems a strange one to take. Is it that you couldn't get a fight? And
I'm not sure.
Maybe trying to build him. I hope that he's not sort of decided to turn into a D-tagger and go into journeyman mode, maybe just to get a couple of fights, or because
I don't think so.
A talented operator, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm wondering whether he's just looking to take the risk to move his career on. I don't think he's taking this as an opponent. I mean, if you've seen him as many times as I have, he's always in absolutely prime condition. I mean, I can't see him coming in with a sort of belly hanging over his shorts. No offence to D if he's listening. Love you, D. We'll speak to you on Saturday. But I don't think Mark Morris is going to be coming in that type of shape. And Mark Morris actually is a strange one because he was a pretty reasonable amateur, but he admitted to me in an interview when he turned pro originally a few years ago with Graham Earl, he didn't actually ever fight under Earl, didn't actually make his debut, that he's not really a boxing fan. He sort of enjoys the fitness side of things and, you know, the intensity of the training. I don't think he's actually a learned fight fan who's going to be sitting down watching old videos of the sport. So unless he's found bouts hard to come by and he said, you know what, chuck me in, let's see how I get on here. By all accounts, he hits like a mule in sparring, so I mean, he's probably fancies his chances.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's the case and he's coming to fight. I just got a little bit of a fear that maybe he was deciding he wasn't getting fights and he was coming in an opponent, because it really does seem like a strange fight, but it's a great fight, and if it is that sort of fight and he's coming to win, it's going to be a cracking fight and really one to look out for.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's coming in journeyman mode. I don't think so. I think he is generally thinking that he can sort of upset the apple cart and defeat Friars, because we know Friars is an excellent boxer, but he maybe doesn't hit that hard, and you need to be able to hit hard sometimes to keep a relentless guy like Mark Morris off you. So I think he's definitely coming in a positive mindset. Niall, it's just great to see these local guys, isn't it, getting a good run out. We spoke before about Mark Dunlop. He always puts on great shows up in Belfast. And in the main event, James Tennyson, I'm sure you've seen a little bit of James from afar. He's boxing Chris Hughes, who Carl Frampton knocked out a few years ago. It's a good step up in a British title eliminator and a Celtic title on the line. Good step up for James.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen just a small bit of him, to be honest with you, but from what I've seen, he really looks the part. And yeah, as you were saying, like Mark Dunlop, he's really putting on some great stuff at the moment up in Belfast. Long may it continue. He's doing some fantastic stuff up there, and hopefully James can get the win there. That'd be a massive title for him if he can do it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think James getting the win is important for, you know, the next breed of Belfast boxing as well. And too much pressure on James, but like it just shows that it won't be just, you know, years and years of small halls. That, you know, Mark has done well to get a progression there, and there's sort of a clear path towards British title success, and then that opens routes to European and so forth and so on. So I think, you know, him winning or even just securing this fight is great news for all the other Dunlop stable, that, you know, Mark is able to, you know, they're not just going to continuously fight on small hall shows, or even if they are small hall shows, they're going to be fighting progressive fights, and there's things to aim for. So I think this is probably one of the biggest fights in, you know, small hall Belfast fighting, or the, you know, of the next generation basically.
Mm-hmm. It was a great fight for small hall. I was talking to James today and he seems very confident, very cool and relaxed, and I mean, it's a lot on his shoulders, isn't it, as well? He's only 21, he's had the loss to Pavel Senkovs, he's bounced back, showed against Ian Bailey when he outboxed him for 8 rounds. A good sort of English southern area operator like Bailey just completely dominated him, and this is a real good next step, great natural progression. As for a prediction, I think that I think it might go to points. I think Tennyson might actually win this one on points. Johnny, what about you? What's your prediction for the main event?
I'll be the same, and I think he wins on points, but I have a sneaky feeling he's getting that bit stronger now as he gets older too, so hopefully if he forced a stoppage it'd be great, and I think he's probably going to naturally start hitting harder over the next few years, because you say we forget how young he is, but Chris Hughes is a smart operator, and it's a great fight, and I think he wins it on points.
Yeah, he's definitely getting his man strength and becoming a lot bigger. Niall, quickly, what do you reckon?
Yeah, 10 round decision, hopefully. That's probably what I'd lean towards as well, to be honest. And hopefully he gets it done. He's from Lisburn. That's up your neck of the woods, Steve, is it?
It's not too far away from me. He's just on the outskirts of West Belfast, going on into Lisbon, so he's not too far away from me at all. So he's a good local boxer, and he's definitely doing great things for Mark Stable, yeah.
Great stuff. Yeah, so I kind of echo what you said. 10 round decision to capture the Celtic title, hopefully.
Derek, what about yourself?
I'm going to go against the apple cart here, Steve, and say 8 round KO. I think he has.
Excellent.
Definitely has he has punching power. I think he's notched up a few KOs already in his 11 fights. So I think he has 9 KOs out of 11. Am I right there? I think he has 9. So yeah, I'll go.
He's a nice one over Mickey Coveney as well, hasn't he? A nice uppercut first round stoppage.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that was up in St Kevin's Hall, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a great stoppage. I think it's important to say Chris Hughes. I think he didn't mind giving up the Celtic title fight, but when he heard it was James Tennyson, or the Celtic title, I think there was talk of him giving it up, and Tennyson was going to fight someone else. But
Michael Roberts, yeah, that's right.
When he heard it was James Tennyson, he decided to fight on it for it. So he obviously is coming fancying his chances too.
Yeah, been an interesting one. He's a cute operator, definitely, Hughes. Don't forget, I know he's got knocked out by the better guys on his record, but he has mixed in good class. I think he might have enough about him to give James a few problems, and I think James will win on points. But that's the sort of domestic Irish scene exhausted, unless anybody has anything to add that I've forgotten.
No.
We shall move on.
Jenny Kavanagh and Quigley had wins.
Quigley, yeah.
Of course they did, yes. Sorry, jump in there, Dave.
Yeah, well, no, it's easy to forget at times, because it's on over in America in the early hours of the morning, and I forgot it was on myself, and it was only on, I think it was Sunday morning. But did that fight happen Saturday night, Sunday morning, whatever the next morning was, anyway?
Friday, Saturday, yeah.
I flicked on Box Nation, and the first thing that popped up was Jamie Kavanagh's fight. So if I hadn't known it was on, I would have waited up to watch it. It was an interesting performance from Kavanagh. He was down in the second round. Not sure what it looked like, a body punch, because he went down.
Oh, sorry, Derek, to cut across you. I was talking to him today. He said it was a head clash.
Ah, okay. Well, it looked like a punch to me. And he went down.
Yeah, he said he said on first glance it looked like he took a body shot, but he said if you just watch the replay back, you'll see I get a smack of the head.
Oh, okay.
So it was a head clash that done him.
Yeah.
And you were saying to me, Joel Diaz was sort of giving out to him for brawling a bit.
Yeah, like you could hear Diaz in the corner saying, just fucking box him rather than getting in there and scrapping with him. Just if you just box this guy, you have the beating of him. And I think after round 2, for the first 2 rounds, that's what he was kind of just brawling. And then after that, for the next 3 rounds, I think he got stopped in round 5. The guy was stopped on a stool. The most kind of farcical stoppage I've ever seen, insofar as they asked the doctor stopped it, and they asked the doctor why he was stopped, and the doctor says he was taking too many punches to the head. But I thought that was the point of boxing, was to punch people in the head, and he wasn't getting badly beaten, or he wasn't as if he was getting beef from pillar to post around the ring. It was a very competitive fight. Jamie was probably just kind of sneaking it on points, but it wasn't uncompetitive or anything like that. But the doctor stepped in and retired him on his stool. But
just on that, he was saying that the first 2 rounds, it was basically he wasn't mad to brawl. He was just a bit of ring rust because he'd been out so long. And then Quigley got another knockout, and he's back then. I think he's fighting on April the 30th, and he's going to open the Fox Sports TV show, so he's progressing nicely too.
That's brilliant to hear that he's moving on, because that's 2 fights in the space of 2 weeks, isn't it? I'm just looking at his box rec here.
3 in a month and a half or so, or because he's got an April 30th date now, so what's that? 3 over 2 months, so it's good to see, and he's getting TV as well.
And I mean, is there any indication of sort of where Golden Boy are going to be pushing him? I mean, is there any word of them coming over to finding a venue in Donegal or anything we can hope?
I don't think so. I think actually there's talk of Spike looking to fight in Cork in the summer, and Murphy's boxing. I think Derek was telling me actually that baseball season over there means they can't fight in the summer, so around Boston, so they're going to look to come to Ireland every summer and maybe even bring over some of the Danny O'Connors and the Asprey. I think they signed Logan McGuinness as well, and try and work with Spike and sign maybe one or two other Irish fighters.
Yeah, that was kind of the news as such, because baseball season, you have kind of, I think, baseball on 3 days a week over there, so it's very difficult to sell tickets for fights over there during the summer. So the guys from Murphy's Boxing were talking about maybe having 2 shows a year in Ireland, maybe one in Cork and possibly one in Dublin. I know they were even looking into venues. They were talking about like the likes of Turner's Cross, where Cork City play. They were talking, I think that seated, that holds about 8,000, but then whatever on the pitch, so you could probably say about 9,000 in there. So they were looking at those type of venues for something in the summer. So that would be really excellent if, you know, a 9,000 open air Turner's Cross Spike against someone big during the summer.
Would there be appetite for it, Niall?
Yeah, there would. You'd probably get about 15,000, I'd say, in there. No, they redeveloped it now to more or less an all-seater in a way. Appetite? Yeah, I'd say definitely. I mean, geez, we haven't had a big fight in Cork since... I mean, the last time Spike fought, it was in Neptune Stadium in Cork, which would have only held about 2,000. But with his profile now, and yeah, I mean, there'd be massive demand. Like, it's even just from the local clubs and stuff in Cork alone, I'd say selling tickets that way and the demand that would generate through them would be quite big. Just purely for the fact that there hasn't been a big fight in Cork in a while, and yeah, Spike since he last fought here, his profile's obviously gotten much bigger, and yeah, I'd be confident if they got a good opponent, you could maybe do 8 to 10,000, I'd say.
Be nice to see them get on the phone to Brian Peters maybe and get Quigley over the way Brian sort of facilitated Andy Lee's and John Duddy's fights over here. That would be certainly an avenue that I'm sure they could pursue. Niall, actually, just before we were about to wrap up here, you were saying to me just before we came on air that it looks pretty likely that the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, Sky TV, are going to be given the franchise sort of rights for the UK and Ireland. It was always going to be likely that it was going to be them, wasn't it?
Yeah, Boxing Scene and a couple other outlets reported that it's looking like they've more or less got it now, and that they're in pole position. So yeah, I guess it's hard to match that promotional clout that they have, and obviously I think the way the deal is being reported to be structured is that a percentage of the pay-per-view revenue will go to the promoters of Mayweather-Pacquiao, as opposed to Warren's alleged offer, which was higher up front, but obviously when you consider the percentage of what pay-per-view might generate, it's probably going to be considerably more. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they charge for it. I know that the usual price is about €22 or £15 sterling, so hopefully they don't jack it up too much, but you'd have to think that they probably will.
Yeah, I think that in America they're going around the sort of $100 region. I know that whenever Mayweather Hatton was on, Setanta Sports was sort of on the scene then, and the US people were impressed by them, but they decided to go with Sky because they had the reputation, even though Setanta were coming up with the innovations. And I'm not sure, Derek, if the innovations were quite as innovative as this the nice little segue here into your BT.
Yeah, I like that. I like
BT Sport Total Combat. Now, I didn't watch this, so you believe you're going to fill us in on this this thing?
Yeah, I have to admit I was a bit sceptical before I watched it. It's like the best way you can describe it is like prize fighter on steroids. It really is. You know, the jury is definitely still out on it, but I suppose for anybody who hasn't seen it, it's similar to the prize fighter format insofar as does quarter-final, semi-final and a final. But I think where it differs hugely is the whole setup is something like Gladiators, if people remember what the show was like, with the kind of announcers and contestants, are you ready, and this type of thing, you know. And the format, the way it works is, I think each round is about 6 minutes long, or each fight is only 6 minutes. That's one round of 6 minutes or 5 minutes, and each round starts with about £3,000, I think, on the clock, and as the minutes tick by or the seconds tick by, the money goes down. And obviously the object there is to knock someone out within the 6 minutes and stop the clock, and if you do that, you earn more money. But where it gets kind of extra crazy is anywhere within that fight. I think it's the referee can decide what's called, I think it's called a blitz, which lasts for 30 seconds, where this hooter goes off, and if you can knock your opponent out within the 30 seconds, you get an extra, I don't know whether it's 1,000 or 2,000 bonus or whatever it is, but it really is like really crazy when you hear that hooter going off and they start going for each other, because if it goes off, if you can imagine, if it goes off within the first minute and the guys go at it for 30 seconds, then they've still another 5 minutes to go in the round, so you can see them kind of slugging it out after that. But I think, Johnny, you watched a little bit of it with me as well. You know, what was your impression?
Yeah, it's just insane. Basically, you're going to see the next All Access. This is going to be, instead of 30-minute spars, this is going to be Mayweather's new thing. This 5-minute spars, whoever sparks anyone gets 20 grand or something to just kill each other. But it was just madness. I can't really see it taking off. But who ran it? Was it Warren?
It's
Francis Warren.
Yeah.
Yeah. Francis Warren, and it was on BT, and in conjunction with Box Nation it was on as well. Look, I think it's an interesting concept. It's like this thing, I think it's big knockout boxing that they have in America. You know, on this Total Combat, the ring is circular, you know, and obviously the object is to knock someone out, and it's like that big knockout boxing in America where...
But there was only one knockout in it, wasn't there?
No, there was one or two, I think. You know, I was kind of watching it half on, half off, and watching bits of it. I definitely seen one or two kind of decent enough knockouts on it, and it is exciting. The guys who fight in it doesn't go on their record, so you've nothing to lose by entering it in that regard. Like as in losing your if you're unbeaten as a pro or anything like that, you don't lose your record, as far as I'm aware. So, and it has that exciting element, and I can see, like, if people just like watching people literally going for it, looking for the knockout, there's that exciting element to it. I don't know whether it's never going to replace boxing. It's like, but it's boxing entertainment, I suppose, is what it is, and whether it'll take off to be big, I don't know, but it's certainly entertaining.
I'll take your word for it, Derek. I'll maybe try and catch it. I'll maybe try and catch it next time it's on. But sure, lads, we'll maybe count ourselves out for the evening here. We've had a great hour of discussion, so I'd like to extend my thanks to the panel for coming on and jumping on and having this chat. We'll hopefully be jumping on again next week with a night of wins for Mark Dunlop's boxers in Belfast. Derek, I know you've got to shoot off. Where can people reach you on Twitter, and what are you up to this week?
Yeah, as always, Steve, you can find me at Derek McKenna on Twitter, or IrishBoxing.com. Myself and Jonny run IrishBoxing.com, so you can find either of us on there. Unfortunately, as I said, I won't be up in Belfast this weekend, but hopefully there'll be more Irish shows to get to fairly soon. I think there's something we can talk about next week. There's a show planned for early May, I think, in Dublin. Maybe we can go deeper into that next week and find out who's on that. It's only just being kind of announced at the moment, so yeah, we'll talk about that next week.
Certainly will. Jonny, what about yourself?
At IrishBoxing.com and Johnny Hips at Hotmail, they're my Twitter handles.
Plenty busy on the website this week?
Yeah, I'm going to try and preview all them, the Dunlop shows, and there'll be a few interviews backlogged there after we didn't get to do much over the weekend, so yeah, stay tuned. We've some good stories lined up.
Mm-hmm. And Niall, what about yourself? There's a bit of a rebrand of the blog maybe going on soon.
Yeah, next Monday now, hopefully I'll be sitting down with a guy and we'll be changing the name of the website, logo, totally new website, and covering world boxing news, and really excited about it. Hopefully I'll be able to tell you more next week. And until then, we're just basically a couple of interviews this week with some English guys. Tomorrow, Lloyd Ellis, he's a light middleweight. We did an interview with Lloyd there recently. It's quite interesting. So some funny stuff in there. Turns out he's afraid of seagulls. That's Mark. Yeah, he lives in Brighton in the UK, so he's near the beach, he said. That's basically tomorrow, and hopefully by next week I'll have some kind of good news for you with what we're doing with the website.
Excellent, looking forward to it. You're at Niall or Doran on Twitter, aren't you?
It's changed to at Doran Boxing Blog now, but that's the latest one we use, yeah.
No problem, I'll change that. Thanks again, guys, for listening. Really appreciate it. I'm Steve Wellings. You can find me on Twitter at Irish Box Review, or the website's irishboxingreview.com, and we shall speak to you again soon. Thank you very much.